know, the older I get, the more I realize that I'm a very boring person. As far as things goes, nothing out of my life is that out of the ordinary, and I'm pretty plain. And if I was chips, I'd be the one without salt. So, regardless, yeah, I don't know. I was in a dilemma. I didn't know what exactly to talk about. A part of me wanted to talk about my personal experience. You know, like like I kind of think like maybe I'm in like borderline 88 ADD, maybe not too sure, but borderline perhaps. The reason I say this is because back in my community college days, I always felt like I was different in the sense that my mind was a little bit if everybody was using 80 miles per hour Subarus, I was just your beat up 40 miles per hour Honda Civic that can barely go off and drive. So, anyways, I go out and I check the special services, right? I'm like walking in, and I take their test, and I completely bombed a specific section, and this is the big red lights flags on me. This is the part where my brain was like, ding, ding, ding. All right, you got a little accommodation, Adrian, and that would have to be my auditory senses. So basically, what that means, and I think it kind of like relates back to even when I was growing up. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible listener. What goes through one ear comes out the other, and my brain really doesn't like. You tell it one thing, I'll be thinking about something else. Like my mind goes somewhere else. So, I think it's affected me in multiple things. I think, and specifically when I'm trying to like multitask, especially when I was working at retail. So I definitely felt its effects. But one upside for some weird reason was that it kind of like put my visuals, which is my eyes, into like top gear. So I'm great with reading. When it comes to like reading it on my own, I excel at it. It's just my auditory senses are kind of like jacked up a bit. So there's that. And no one's perfect. Like everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. It's just like up to a point. I think it kind of like relates. I mean, I find like daily nuances monotonous. I kind of like find like cleaning and doing dishes, cooking, like tedious. I don't like it. But when it comes towards like theories and like ideas or like books, I can talk about it nonstop. So it's one of those things where I try to like realize it, and it's not easy. I mean, even for my family. I mean, my brother's been diagnosed with ADHD, so I think it has to do something with our family, but I'm not too sure. I'm not a doctor, and I'm no means am I trying to like saying about like I'm diagnosing myself and invalidating others. It's just my own experiences, and I kind of like I kind of went through some things, so it's kind of like it's difficult on me because like perhaps what's easy for somebody takes me longer, and that little bit of like time that someone takes for granted, I kind of like actually have to use it to like catch up on studies or readings or things like that. But regardless, I think everybody has their advantage points, and I think I mean, has it affected me? Maybe, and particularly in relationships. I've always been heard that like girls tell me, "Oh, you just don't listen," and I'm like, "Bitch, I can't." But that's no reason to like invalidate the argument. It's just something that you struggle with. And I remember this one time I really helped out this one girl in her biology college class, and behind my back, she just said, he's kind of crazy, but in Spanish, but whatever. Screw her. Anyways, regardless, small things like that, you kind of like take it into account. But, living with a defect, is it hard on life? Yes. Does it make things impossible? No. Just gotta work on it, and work on what you're good at. That's for sure. So, no one's born perfect. So, but yeah, kind of like I view things in my past, and I kind of like there's some clues and context of that reinforce the idea that I might have this, but only a doctor, only a psychologist can actually tell you these things. I'm nobody to be saying that I can diagnose myself. So it's just one of those things that you kind of like assume, but you're not exactly you don't actually know because you're not the expert. So that's my partake on it. But yeah, I think I get that visualization from the FPS shooters, definitely for sure. But yeah, I struggle with listening, and it's sad. I mean, it sucks because like um, yeah, my mind wanders, and it's like I'm doing something, and then like I'll be preoccupied with the thoughts, and you can be talking to me, and I wouldn't be listening. So it's defective in that aspect, but I think it gives you that like drive to be like producing new ideas and kind of like going on with your own creativity. So it's not all that bad. It's it's just one of those double-edged swords. And I think that's it for today. I mean, I was gonna do like this one segment where like I was gonna talk about all the books I read, but I just found it too egotistical. And like and like before this, I was actually watching this one video of like the humanity almost like it was like this like homeless person speaking truth and whatnot. And it kind of like resonated with it because he was talking a lot of truth in it, and I was like, wow. I think the bottom gist of that was kind of like how us as human beings we think for ourselves, and I think that's correct, especially in contemporary times. I think we become a little bit more cowardly, but not all the times. I think everyone's particularly selfish, but that's is that something in our culture, or is that something that's in our nature? Is that something conditioned? I don't know. I'm not an expert on these things, so just why do I even say it out? Yeah, I'm just talking. But what else? I mean, yeah, let's talk about. I mean, I'm gonna go through some books that like have impacted me as I was going through my college experience, whether something resonated with me or something that I liked about it, or I had this obsession with reading books just because I felt like I try to like recompensate because I felt like I was lacking in the knowledge department, or I just felt like I wasn't smart. I'll be honest. I felt like I was a dumbass, IQ dumbass, and which is true. That was my low self-esteem that like I thought that I was like stupid. So I try to like recompensate by reading a lot, and through these books I think I found something. And you know what, I'm not the person that's blessed with what's it like, photogeneric, let me look it up. It's the ability when you're able to like read the book and still remember it. No, and I think that's something was weird with like having a low attention span, is that like you can only grasp so much information at a time, at a piece, and it sucks sometimes because you really want to take it all in account. But then imagine having all that information and wait, like it's good to forget. You know why? Because I don't want the whole weight of my life experience compressed into my skull. And some people have that ability. I'm like, damn. I think the point of a book, it's kind of like eating. I saw this one quote. It's kind of like eating. It's kind of like exercising. Like people often say, what's the point of a book if I'm going to forget it? Well, it's kind of like nutrients. It's kind of like food. You don't keep everything that you kind of like that you eat. It goes away, but a part of it, you take some part of it. And I think that's what books do. Obviously, do you remember everything? No. I don't think you're supposed to remember all of it. I mean, you're supposed to take the main points of it, the gist. I mean, it's it's more of a it's like watching a movie. It's kind of like writing. It's kind of like it's art. It's in the art. So it's like and you get what you get from it. Why am I ranting so much? And should I talk about the books? I mean, man, it's gonna be such a long ass video. Hold on. All right, we're gonna talk about the books that have influenced my life. All right, in one way or another, I feel like I resonate with the following books, and I take into account like something's in that book that kind of like caught my attention. Number one, all right, Slaughterhouse-Five. Now, Slaughterhouse-Five is interesting just because on the way that it's formatted, the structure of it. I mean, I just like the insanity and like the way that he places the story. It's kind of uh, like it's not structure. It's not linear. It's kind of like it's all over the place, and it's a big mess. And like it talks about World War II. It talks about like like some like a human being would talk. And I get from that story, and I feel like that's very human. It wasn't much of a novel about a like it wasn't like cinematic or anything. It wasn't like trying to prove a point. It was very human, the book, and the human thoughts and the subconscious and like the flow of thoughts. That's what's kind of like appealing. Do I remember all of it? No, but if I were to read it, I would definitely enjoy it. Catch 22. Now, Catch 22 was very interesting because I was working on a 9 to 5 on a consecutive basis, and that cog of the machine, I kind of felt like that was Catch 22. It has that like bureaucracy, it has that formality, it has that like an inability to change your like fate or destiny or whatever it is, and especially like in the military complex where you have nothing to say or do. That's kind of like it's kind of like tongue-in-cheek with the whole like institution, and how much can you really change? Not much. It's kind of like you're just another cog in the machine. And obviously the whole premise of the story is kind of like if you realize that you're crazy, that makes you sane, and therefore you're not going to get discharged or like something like that. If you claim you're crazy, then you're not crazy because you can claim that you're crazy. So to get out, kind of, and that's something a person, and the real insanity is doing the thing over and over. But yeah, that was a really nice book. Dante's The Inferno. I was very interested, an edgy kid, and like I just wanted to say that I read Hell, and oddly enough, the core of Hell is actually ice. Which is very ironic because, you would expect it to be more flames. No, it's ice, and Satan's encapsulated in ice. So there's that. What else? V for Vendetta. I mean, come on. It's anarchy to the top. And come on, it's Alan Moore. Obviously, Alan Moore today is different from Alan Moore from, what he was. And, it's a classic, What else? What has influenced me one way or another? Clockwork Orange. I mean, it's devastating what the story is about, and it's kind of messed up. But he says it in a nice, like, the language of it is kind of like ironic because it's very fucked up shit. When it's like what he's talking about. It's very. It talks about the moral principles. It talks about the principles of evil, and kind of like if you change someone that's evil into good, but without them wanting to as a society, aren't we? Something like that. I don't even know. You know what? I shouldn't be talking about things I don't really remember, and that's my fault. All right, but it's a good book. If you're if you were to go back into it, I'm like, damn, this is it's a heavy book. What other books? Count of Monte Cristo. Why? Because the protagonist kicks ass, and he's out there for vengeance, and it's the author of the Three Musketeers. I mean, Alexander Dumas, right? Is that his name? Dumas, right? Frenchman. Yeah. All right. Cool. What else? Jurassic Park. I mean, it's the fucking dinosaurs, bro. Dinosaurs. And you know what? I read a book prior to Michael Crichton, and I didn't know that was the same author that was Jurassic Park. Timeline, man. I read that when I was like 10. My 7th grade teacher said I wasn't able to. I wasn't gonna finish that book to get the AR points. Guess what? I did. I was able to get the AR points. What else? What other books were impactful one way or another? You know what? Jules Verne's was pretty good. 50,000, is it 30,000? 50,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I just like the whole steampunk, you know. I'm trying to like recollect out of all these books. You know, for books that I say that are impactful, I can't remember, like, you know, whatever. Da, 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 da. Trying to remember what other books were cool. The Full Metal Alchemist, but the manga was pretty good too. And there was this one, I think it was Tokyo Babylon. I know that's like a weird choice, but I like Tokyo Babylon, and that was the manga, right? Yeah, I liked it. That was a very interesting take on, you know, society and, like, you know, morals of good and evil. That was pretty good. What else? All Quiet on the Western Front was good. You know, if you want a tequila shot, if you want a vodka shot, The Brothers Karamazov. And I regret reading that book because that was 1,000 pages long. My God, 1,000 pages. Lord of the Rings series, I mean, it was great up until the Return of the King, and that was too much. I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien, whatever, he's on another level. I haven't even watched the movies. But, you know, if I were to watch the movies, it would make a lot more sense. I mean, the Return of the King, my God, that's a complex book. But, you know, it's very 3D. I mean, the man, he kind of like fleshed out all the characters. Like, he knows what he was doing. He was out of my league when it comes with IQ, bro. That I was like, well, I like, you lost me with the first few characters out. You know, Legolas. I'm kidding. What other, you know, right now I'm watching the ReZero light novel. Now that's an interesting book. I like it right now. And what else? Now, this is a controversial one. You know, people say Catcher in the Rye. People like that Catcher in the Rye. Like, Catcher in the Rye, I mean, I wouldn't read it again. Frankenstein? Come on, it's Frankenstein. Like, come on, it's Frankenstein. Frankenstein monster, you know? Frankenstein is actually the doctor, not the monster. Yeah, you know, all that bullshit. And that's about it. You know, I think that there's some other books, but I can't remember them right now. And others. Whatever. That's about it, guys. And I'm going to call it a day. Adios.